Off the attack I oppose. Diagonal bishop, death blow, German chess pro, your moves expose. I saw your gambit before you chose. With Captain Marvelous, cosmic awareness and no moral code. Majestic as a Shi'ar, death ship, the Thanos hold. Infinity gauntlet, rearrange the cosmos how I see fit. Crush a world within my fists with galactics, tactics. I'm a force of nature, the rise of the phoenix. Believe this. Mad thinker genius. Massy minds illusions devious. Lyrical O2. I breathe this. Professor X with cerebral on couldn't perceive this. What's up, y'all? I'm Shawn Aline. That was a piece I wrote called Marvels. My name is Shawn Aline. I'm from the island of Barbados. I was born and raised in St. Michael. Moved around the island a little bit, but then eventually moved to Philly, where I've been the rest of my life. Yeah, my childhood was the type of thing where it was just lost in innocence. You know what I mean? Looking back, I could probably say that there was some stuff that I would like to do differently, but at the time, I would say I had a happy childhood. You know, going to school, running around, going to the beach. You know, just living the life of a comic book nerd in Barbados. For me, growing up in the world of comics, it meant going to the library a lot. It meant spending time with my dad, who he was a big comic book fan, big comic book junkie. But we didn't have comic book stores. It wasn't until later on that we had like an actual comic book store. But we used to get comic books from our neighbors and friends, or we would go into like the little pharmacies and there would be like a comic book spin rack. But so yeah, it was a lot of times I would be at my friend's house reading comics. My dad would let me hold his comic books, going to the library a lot, like I said, or at school. And yeah, some of the best memories for me was being in the library like during summer vacation, because you could just be there all day. There wasn't any rules. You know, you didn't have to get out at a certain time. I would say one of my earliest memories of my father and comics is an issue of Daredevil. I forget exactly what issue of, but he used to like to sketch, and he was drawing a cover, and I remember sitting on his lap or sitting next to him, and he was drawing this Daredevil cover. I was just fascinated with it. So to this day, I still love Daredevil. I think because of that memory, and just, you know, just because I like the character too. But that's what really got me, I think, interested in drawing and wanting to do my own comic books. And then after that, it was just something that he didn't really keep with it. You know, I was the artist of the family, of the school, and I just kept drawing and kept reading comics, and then started to try to make my own. So then, once you start having your own stories in your mind, you want to get it out on paper. I don't think there's anything that could, especially if you could draw, you know what I mean? It was like I had to go and look for artists, so I just kept drawing. My father didn't really have an art style. I was just more captivated in the fact that he was drawing. What captivated me was just the fact that you could take a piece of paper and a pencil and create something, you know, because I think, especially as a child, you just see a product, so you don't know the process behind it. So to see him drawing something, that was magical. Definitely the love of comics came first, because it was just, I wanted to absorb as many as possible, and I just liked stories in general. So comics were an extension of the books I used to read. So I just loved those worlds. And then later on, as I started drawing more, then I fell in love with the process of drawing and creating my own stuff. I started drawing, I remember there was a guy that used to come on TV. He was doing some kind of nature show, and he would draw the animals that he would talk about. And I used to sit and try to draw in tune with him at his speed. So he would draw a whale, I would try to draw the whale before he went on to the next thing. And I used, at that time, you know, we couldn't pause. If only I could pause the TV. But it was, that was what got me more into just drawing. And like, even to this day, I just like drawing. So that started me drawing, and the comics was an extension of me drawing more. I can't really talk for my family. I know about my mom. I know my mom was always pushing me to draw. Like, she was always supportive of my art. and she would buy me art supplies and stuff like that. I can't really remember her speak for my father. I think more, maybe he just was like, oh, that's cool, you know, just as a casual observer. But my mother was the one who nurtured it. I like to say that my dad got me started, my mother's who nurtured the art. But more so, I got the most attention at school, in class when, you know, especially if there was like an art project that needed to get done, and the other children would want me to draw their stuff for them. And even the teachers, I remember drawing a Christmas card. The teacher asked me to draw a Christmas card for her. So that was a lot of love coming from there. The moment that art became my passion, it's kind of hard to pinpoint. It was such, art is just one of those things for me. It's such a part of my being and was so fluid. Art for me is a part of my being because that's something I was doing from young. It's something that I always felt free doing. The ability to take something that's in your mind and make it manifest, that's amazing power. And I think one of the most vivid moments I can remember saying, hey, I want to do this, was when I actually started making some money from it, when I started doing, but that was years later. That was when I started doing conventions and getting hired to do commissions, and I was like, hey, I can actually do this for a living. Yeah, the superhero stuff was my main focus. That was what I absorbed growing up. Comics, the comics I was reading, even though I read a little bit of everything. I read Little Archie, Tintin, Conan, but the superhero stuff I gravitated more towards for some reason. Maybe it was just because I read more of superhero stuff, but for whatever reason, that was always my main focus. Well, I think that, especially if you do something, you start from young. As a kid, you absorb what's around you, you absorb what you see. And in those days, Barbados wasn't producing any comic books that I knew about. So everything was being imported, and you had American comics. This is even before manga. I didn't even know about manga and stuff like that. So American, in Western comic book worlds, superhero is king. So that was what I absorbed, and that's what I felt I had to create, and that's where my mind went. So as a result, I didn't appreciate what Barbados had to offer, and two, I didn't know how to incorporate it. I was just regurgitating what I saw in a comic book. And years later, with perspective and time, you can look back and say, hey, as you grow as a person, as you grow as an intellectual person as well, you say, hey, these are more interests now that I want to put into something. This is what I want to do. But I have to be honest and say that wasn't triggered till I went back home in 2012 to AnimeCon, Barbados's one and only comic book convention. And while I was there, I met Barbadian artists that were creating comic books based in Barbadian culture. So that was like a trigger for me. So it's kind of going back to that thing of like, my growth as an artist had all these different stages, you know what I mean? And I feel I'm still growing as an artist. Who knows what other elements I'm going to put into future books, you know? But that was when I started thinking more about the Caribbean and Barbados directly of, hey, we need more representation in this book. Some of the struggles, like I said, was that the fact that I didn't see a lot of Barbadian representation. There weren't that many outlets for art. I think the general mentality too, unfortunately, even to this day, the general mentality is that art isn't really a viable commodity. And I know that, especially back in those days growing up, people seen art more as a hobby. So I think that was the, looking back once again, 2020 is that, hindsight is 2020, is that I don't think people encourage the art as a career. They just encourage it as like, oh, this is a cute hobby. So I would say if there's anything I could go back and change, it would be me to take it more serious when I was younger. The main thing that I want to put over in my artwork is energy. I want you to connect with it in that you feel some kind of excitement. I don't want it to feel bland. And that could be from anything, whether it's the genres or if it's a pose of somebody. I want it to feel gritty and real. I want to put you in that world. You know, like I want you to see the speckles of dirt on a person's boot. I want you to see the angle, the way they're standing, and be like, oh, that's different. The ideas that I have, I want you to be like, oh man, I didn't think of doing this that way or something. You know what I mean? I think there's a bit of an artist's pride too. You always want to kind of outdo like the other artists, and I think it's a bit of an artist challenge. You want to outdo your old self. At least that's how I feel. I feel you should be trying to outdo your old self. So I always try to get that energy, that hypeness, and it's like I always want to chase that feeling. I'm always chasing that feeling that I had reading a comic book for the first time, seeing like a new manga, you know what I mean? Like seeing and watching a new anime, that excitement. I want to always capture that kid in some person and be like, do you feel excited? Do you feel, you know what I mean? Does this connect with you? That's the main thing I want to take away. But right now, specifically too, I think the thing that's important for me is to incorporate Caribbean culture, African culture, and hip hop in my elements, because that's all the things I love. So I try to get it over in my art.